In Cotonou, Benin, in the heart of the city, between the wide avenues and lively neighborhoods, there was a very famous hair salon called Beauty of Rennes. It was a modern salon with shining mirrors covering the walls, comfortable leather chairs, and soft lighting that enhanced every face. The moment you walked in, you immediately understood that this place was not like the others. People did not come here just to get their hair done. They came here to transform themselves. Every day, the salon was full. Rich women, famous influencers, wives of powerful men, and sometimes even celebrities seen on television. Luxury cars parked outside the salon. Range Rovers, Mercedes. Sometimes even rarer cars. Inside, the atmosphere was always lively. Laughter, conversations, the sound of hairdryers, the scent of high-end beauty products. In the middle of all this worked Sarah, a talented young hairstylist, dark-skinned with a brown complexion, always well-presented. Her hands were fast and precise. She knew how to braid, style, and transform any client. And above all, she loved her work. Every morning, she arrived smiling. She greeted her co-workers. She prepared her tools and gave her best. Because here, clients demanded perfection. But despite all the rich women who came, despite the luxury, despite the celebrities, there was one client different from all the others. A woman everyone waited for. A woman everyone respected. A mysterious woman. Whenever she arrived, the whole salon changed. Conversations stopped. Eyes turned toward the door. Even the owner, Mama Tassel, became more attentive. Because this woman was not an ordinary client. Her name circulated through the salon, but no one truly knew who she was. She appeared, then disappeared. Always surrounded by luxury. Always elegant. And yet, no one knew her secret. People only knew her name. Madame Massoko. No one knew her job. No one knew whether she was a businesswoman, a politician, or heir to a massive fortune. No one knew her family. No husband, no children, no name linked to hers. And above all, no one knew where she lived. It was as if this woman only existed when she entered the salon. But despite all the mystery, there was one thing everyone knew. She was extremely rich. Not just rich, unbelievably rich. Because whenever Madame Massoko arrived, it was never discreet. Sometimes people heard the sound first. A loud noise in the sky. Clients would raise their heads. Stylists would look at each other. And someone would whisper, "It's her." A few minutes later, a helicopter would land not far from the salon. And she would step out calmly, always beautifully dressed. Luxury gowns, designer handbags, jewelry sparkling in the light. When she entered the salon, everyone looked at her. Not out of curiosity, but admiration. Because she carried something different, something powerful. But it was not only her appearance, it was also her behavior. Madame Massoko barely spoke. She was calm, composed. She gave her instructions and let the stylists work. But at the end, she always did the same thing. She pulled out money, a lot of money. She paid for her hairstyle. Sometimes she paid for other clients. And most importantly, she gave 20,000 francs to each stylist, without discussion, without hesitation, as if it were nothing. Every time, faces lit up. Stylists smiled. Some thanked her emotionally. Even Mama Tassel respected her deeply. Whenever she came, everyone did everything to satisfy her. The best stylists, the best products, the best service, because everyone knew. Her visit was a blessing. With her, the salon made money. A lot of money. But despite all that money, despite all that generosity, something felt wrong. A detail. A void. Because the more time passed, the more one question returned in everyone's mind. Who is Madame Massoko really? And above all, why does no one know anything about her? Her smile remained calm. Her gestures remained precise. But behind this perfect woman hid a mystery no one could understand. And deep down, no one yet knew that this mystery would change all of their lives. One day, as usual, the salon was full. Clients were talking. Stylists were working. The atmosphere was normal. Then, suddenly, the salon phone rang. Mama, Giselle answered. She listened for a few seconds. Then, her face changed. She became serious. Very serious. She hung up slowly and looked at the stylists. It's Madame Massoko. Immediately, everyone stopped. Silence fell over the salon. Then excitement rose. She's coming. Mama Giselle shook her head. No, she wants her hair braided at home. Before she even finished speaking, all the stylists started talking at once. Me, choose me. I'm available. I'm the best. Each of them wanted to go, because everyone knew this was a rare opportunity. Working for a woman that rich meant money. A lot of money. Mama Giselle looked at each of them carefully. She thought for a few seconds, then pointed her finger. Nessa. Silence returned. Nessa opened her eyes wide. She had been chosen. One of the best stylists in the salon. Fast. Precise. Professional. The others were jealous, but she was proud. Very proud. The next morning, everyone waited outside the salon. Curious. Excited. Then suddenly, a bright yellow Lamborghini arrived. Shiny. Impressive. It stopped right in front of the salon. All eyes turned. Some clients even pulled out their phones. Nisa looked at the car. Her heart was beating fast. Very fast. She had never experienced anything like this. She got inside. The door closed, and the car sped away. Inside the salon, conversations exploded. She's lucky. She'll come back with a lot of money. Maybe even more than usual. Some were already imagining her life changing, but the hours passed. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Then finally, the Lamborghini returned. It stopped. Everyone watched. The door opened. Nasa stepped out. But something was wrong. Her face was closed. Her eyes were empty. She walked slowly, very slowly, as if she were somewhere else. She was pale. She was trembling slightly. She was afraid. Everyone rushed toward her. So what was it like? How much did she give you? Nasa looked at no one. She simply whispered, Nothing. I worked. Silence. The others looked at each other. They did not understand. This was not normal. But Nasa said nothing more. She took her things and left. The next day, she did not come back. Mama Tassel received a message. Nasa had resigned. No explanation. No goodbye. And after that, no one ever saw her again. Rumors began inside the salon. She left with a lot of money. She changed her life. She's probably abroad now, but deep down, some of the stylists felt something else. Discomfort. Fear. Because that look was not the look of a woman who had become rich. It was the look of a woman who had seen something she could not explain. And without knowing it, this was only the beginning. A few weeks passed. The salon returned to normal. Clients came back. The conversations returned. The laughter too. But deep down, no one had forgotten Nasa. Her departure was too strange. Her eyes too disturbing. Then one morning, the phone rang again. Maman Tassel picked up the phone. She listened and slowly her face became serious. She hung up, looked at the hairstylists and said, It's Madame Massoko. Silence. No one spoke. This time the excitement was gone. It had been replaced by a strange mix of curiosity and fear. But even so, another hairstylist agreed to go. She got into a luxury car and left. The hours passed just like the first time. Long. Very long. Then she returned. But the moment she stepped out, everyone understood something was wrong. She was terrified. Her face was closed off, her hands were shaking, and her eyes kept looking around as if someone was following her. They asked her questions. How was it? What did you see? But she only replied softly, "Nothing. I worked." Exactly like Nasa. Days passed, and just like Nasa, she disappeared without warning, without saying goodbye. But this time, it did not stop. Again and again, Madame Massoko called. More hairstylists left. Some returned frightened, silent, withdrawn. And a few days later, they vanished. But others came back completely different. They smiled. They looked calm, almost happy. When people asked them, "What did you see?" they would look at the others and say softly, "It's a secret. I'd rather keep it." They refused to speak, but their eyes shined as if they had discovered something incredible. The next day, they disappeared too, leaving no trace. Inside the salon, fear began to grow. The conversations changed. No one talked about money anymore. Now they talked about disappearances. Some hairstylists refused to go now. This isn't normal. There's something dangerous. But others still hesitated, because in their minds there was still the money, the luxury, the easy life. So they told themselves, they probably got paid a lot. They left to start a new life. It's an opportunity. But deep down, no one truly believed it. There were too many similarities. The same departures. The same returns. The same silence. The same disappearances. And above all, that strange mixture of fear and happiness, as if they had seen something beautiful, but also dangerous. Inside the salon, one truth began to settle into everyone's minds. Something was wrong, and that something was becoming more and more frightening. One day, the salon was quiet. Less laughter, less conversation. Since the disappearances, the atmosphere had changed. Some hairstylists worked in silence. Others kept glancing at the door as if expecting something, or someone. Then suddenly the phone rang. A simple sound, but enough to make every head turn. Mamantasel answered. She listened without speaking. Slowly, her face became serious, very serious. She hung up gently, then looked at the hairstylists. Total silence. "It's Madame Massoko." A chill ran through the salon. No one spoke. This time, no one fought for the chance to go. No one smiled. There was only fear. Mama Tessa looked around the room. Then she said, "Sarah?" Sarah's heart stopped for a moment. Every head turned toward her. She said nothing, but she understood. She had been chosen. Before she left, Mama Tessel walked up to her and lowered her voice. "Be careful." Then she added softly, "And watch carefully." Sarah nodded. She gathered her things, even though deep inside she was afraid. A few minutes later, a luxury car arrived. Black, shining, silent. It stopped in front of the salon. No one spoke. Everyone watched. Sarah took a deep breath. Then she got into the car. The door closed. Inside, the driver sat there. Cone. Still. He said nothing. Not even hello. The car started moving, so, at first, Sarah looked at the city. The streets, the people, the traffic. Everything seemed normal. But very quickly the road changed. Fewer houses. Less noise. Then almost nothing. The silence became heavy. Very heavy. Sarah looked at the driver. He still said nothing. She began to feel it. A growing fear. Minutes passed. Then hours. The car kept driving without stopping, without explanation. Finally, they arrived near a beach. An isolated place. No houses. No people. Only the sea. And the sound of waves. Sarah's heart pounded hard. Very hard. She looked around, then asked, "Where are we going?" The driver replied calmly, "We're arriving." His voice was cold, without emotion. Sarah did not understand. She looked at the sea. then the car, and suddenly, the car drove straight toward the water. No, no, no. Sarah began to panic. She looked at the driver. He did not react. The car kept moving. Then it entered the water. Sarah screamed. She closed her eyes. She thought it was over, that she was going to die, but the car did not stop. And in that moment, something impossible was about to happen. Slowly, she opened her eyes, and then she understood nothing anymore. She was underwater, but she was breathing normally. The car kept moving as if everything were normal. Sarah looked around, and what she saw was impossible. Under the water, there was a city, a huge city, magnificent, luxurious, lit from every direction, lights shining like stars, modern buildings, green towers, massive villas, even more beautiful than those on the surface. Cars passed by. Yes, cars driving underwater. People walked calmly, dressed elegantly, as if it were a normal world. Sarah looked through the window. Her eyes widened. Fish swam around the car. Colorful fish. Entire schools gliding past. Some came close, then swam away as if they were used to it. She also saw people, men, women, living there, walking, talking, smiling, like in a real city, but underwater. Sarah was completely shocked. She no longer spoke. She no longer moved. She stared at everything as if she were dreaming. The car continued. It crossed streets, past luxurious homes, modern buildings, beautiful gardens. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. Then finally the car slowed down. It stopped in front of an enormous house. A gigantic villa with huge glass windows, golden lights, and a majestic entrance. Madame Massoko's house. Even more luxurious than anything Sarah had ever seen in her life. The car door opened. Sarah stepped out slowly. Her legs were shaking. She looked around, still in shock. Then she saw Madame Massoko standing before her. Calm, elegant as always. But here, she seemed even more powerful. Sarah approached slowly. She could no longer hold back the question burning inside her. Are you a mermaid? Madame Massoko smiled slightly. A calm smile, almost mysterious. Then she answered softly. No. A brief silence. Then she added, I am a water spirit. A chill ran through Sarah's body. She understood now that this world was not normal. This was not just a hidden place. It was another world, a secret world where luxury concealed something far greater and far more dangerous. Without fully realizing it, Sarah had stepped into a place no one ever truly leaves. Sarah entered the grand house. Her eyes moved everywhere. The walls gleamed. The floors were polished like mirrors. Soft golden lights illuminated every corner. Everything was calm. Too calm. Madame Massoko sat down peacefully as if everything were ordinary. As if this world had always belonged to her. Sarah was still in shock. Yet, despite it all, she began to work. She picked up the hair extensions. Her hands moved gently. She braided Madame Massoko's hair the same way she did every day. But this time, she could not focus. Her eyes kept drifting. She looked toward the windows. Fish swam slowly past the glass. She saw distant silhouettes, people living there peacefully, smiling, moving without stress. This world was perfect. Quiet, rich, silent, magical. There was no noise, no pressure, no visible problems. The longer she looked, the more one thought entered her mind. What if I stayed here? She imagined a life without struggle, without exhaustion, without stress, a life of luxury and peace. She finished the hairstyle perfectly, as always. Madame Massoko looked into the mirror. She was satisfied. Silence filled the room. Sarah hesitated. Then she spoke softly. I want to come back here. Madame Massoko slowly turned her head and looked at Sarah with a deep, serious gaze. She remained silent for a few seconds. Then she said calmly, No one comes here twice. Sarah frowned. Her heart began to race. Madame Massoko continued, If you want to return. She paused. You must stay here forever. Time seemed to stop. Sarah could not speak. She thought deeply. Then Madame Massoko added one more warning. And above all, no one must know where you were. Her voice became colder, stronger. She stared directly into Sarah's eyes. If you speak, you will never return. Another chill passed through Sarah. She understood now. This was not a simple invitation. It was a choice, a dangerous one. Stay here forever and abandon her old life, or leave and lose this place forever. The silence became heavy, very heavy. Sarah looked around one last time. This perfect world. This impossible luxury. This strange peace. But deep inside, one question remained. What is the real price of this place? And without knowing it, the choice she made would change her entire life. On the way back, Sarah sat silently in the car. She did not even look at the driver. Her mind was elsewhere. She replayed everything. The underwater city. The beauty. The peace. The people she had seen there. Then a realization became clear. Nessa. The other women. They had not disappeared by accident. They had not run away. They chose to stay there, to live in that perfect world with no stress, no struggle, and endless luxury. But in exchange, they abandoned their old lives, their jobs, their co-workers, their families, everything. The car continued in silence. Now Sarah understood why some women returned afraid, and others returned smiling. Different reactions. Same secret. When the car arrived at the salon, it stopped. Sarah stepped out. Immediately, everyone was waiting for her. She stood in the middle of the salon. All eyes were fixed on her. No one spoke, but everyone wanted answers. She took a deep breath. Her heart pounded. She remembered Madame Massoko's warning. If you speak, you will never return. A heavy silence filled the room. Then the questions began. What was it like? Where does she live? Tell us. Voices grew louder. Some moved closer. Others stared impatiently. We want the truth. You can't keep this to yourself. Sarah hesitated. She looked around. Her co-workers. Mama Tiseli. The women she worked beside every day. The pressure became unbearable. She tried to stay silent, but the voices kept coming, again and again. Then she broke. She opened her mouth and told them everything. The road, the silent driver, the beach, the car entering the water, the panic, the shock, then the city, an underwater city, luxurious, magnificent, like another world. She described the houses, the lights, the people living there, the fish swimming around the streets. Then she spoke of the grand mansion, Madame Massoko's home, richer than anything they could imagine. And finally, she revealed the secret. Stay there forever, or leave and never return. The salon fell silent. No one moved. Some women opened their eyes wide. Others covered their mouths. No one had expected this. Some were terrified. Others were fascinated. But one thing was certain. Sarah had said something she never should have said. The next day, the salon was quiet. No one truly spoke. Some hairstylists kept thinking about Sarah's story. Others still could not believe it. But deep down, everyone was disturbed. Then suddenly, the phone rang. A simple sound, but this time, it inspired fear. No one moved. Mama, Tesselle looked at Sarah, then slowly answered. She listened without speaking. Her face became serious, very serious. Then she held out the phone to Sarah. "It's for you." Sarah's chest tightened. She took the phone. Her hand trembled slightly. She said nothing. She waited. Then a calm, cold voice echoed through the receiver. "You spoke." The silence became crushing. Sarah could not answer. A shiver ran through her body. Then the voice continued, just as calm as before. "You will never return." The line went dead. Sarah stood frozen, the phone still against her ear. She understood. It was over. That world, that luxury, that perfect life she had seen, she would never see it again. Inside the salon, no one spoke. Everyone had heard. Everyone understood. Days passed, but something had changed. Madame Massoko never called again. Never. No more luxury cars. No more helicopters. No more money. And most of all, the women who had left never returned. Not Nasa, not the others. As if they had never existed. With time, the salon returned to normal. Clients came back. Conversations resumed. Laughter returned. But deep inside, fear remained. And doubt. Sarah continued to work. But she was no longer the same. Sometimes she would stop, stare into space, and think about that underwater city, that perfect world she had lost forever. This story reminds us of something important. Not everything that shines is good. Easy luxury can hide a trap. Some choices demand enormous sacrifices. Sometimes silence protects rare opportunities. Just because something looks perfect does not mean it is safe. Sometimes what seems like a dream can cost you what matters most. And sometimes the price of luxury is your freedom.